Sit off to the side where the tree isn't. There we go.
I'm going to get off camera.
For those, oh, there you go. You're awesome. Thank you. So, for those of you that don't know both of us, Verena and I have joined forces from across the world because we have been working together for probably the last year in our group called Creator Sphere. And in Creator Sphere, we have this sort of conglomeration of a few coaches. There's four of us that have been working together, and we have group classes every day, and we've really bonded over the last year. And every time Verena and I work together, we're just like, we have this sort of excitement where we are both really working with energy and really doing these neat things. And every time we talk to each other, I'm like, you guys, you should do that in your sessions. And we're like, yeah, like we have all this stuff that we don't normally talk about and do in our sessions. And we keep telling each other how brilliant we are. We're like, we should just do this. And I've been designing this course for the last 6 months to probably close to a year, and never really felt that it was the right time until these last few weeks. It's been really amazing with everything that's happening, this beautiful full moon that we just had, and this eclipse season that's kind of rolling in. It's been really amazing working just with the different clients that I've been seeing for some of them for almost a year now. They've been going through these really amazing shifts where they're not even realizing how much intuition they have. They're just tapping into these things and being able to see things they haven't seen before, being able to feel things they haven't been able to feel before, tapping into their intuition in ways that they didn't even know. For example, I was talking with someone the other day, and we were talking, and I just noticed him doing this rocking thing. And for anyone that has been doing intuition work or muscle testing or anything like that, one of the ways that you can get a yes from your body when you're asking, should I do this? Your body, if it's a yes, will often want to almost rock forward and sort of show you. And so these really neat things have been happening, and I've been getting so excited because I'm seeing them and they're feeling them at the same time, but they didn't even know that that was what they were sort of, you know, intending with listening to themselves. There's such direct ways to know that your body's talking to you. We wanted to share some things this weekend that really help you understand how your body is speaking to you, really understand what your body's saying to you, and to be able to look at all of these. There's been a lot of, we'll call it chaos. There's been a lot of things that have been coming up over the last few weeks to really show us some truths about what we're ready to let go of, what we're ready to shift forward into, what we're ready to truly embrace, maybe things we haven't been asking for before in our lives. And it seemed like the absolute perfect time to just be able to have this come forward this weekend, leading us up into this eclipse season coming into the next 2 weeks. And over the next 6 weeks, this is going to be a really magical time for people. And we are coaches that we're not all about forcing ourselves on someone. We have all this information. We wanted to put it out there. And we are so excited to have you guys here tonight with us to just be able to embrace a lot of this floating knowledge flying around our brains that we just can't wait to share with you, and to have a space where you guys can actually just take some time, get to be in touch with yourselves in a really safe space, learn hopefully some new techniques, maybe even some old ones for some of you that might have gone through some of this before. We aren't teaching from any one method. We're sort of conglomerating the 15 methods that we know and that we've been studying over the last probably 10 or 15 years, if not longer, and totally bringing it to you in a way that will be easy to understand and fun. And we're going to just sort of dive into the body, mind, and soul. Today, we're going to kind of get into body. We're going to get into how stress affects our body, why it affects our body, the parts of us that were around first that sort of help us have these discernments of these truths that are coming about right now, and be able to really understand what is going on and understand what our emotions are trying to tell us, because they're never, I feel anyways, emotions are never something that we should pack down or not look at or try and understand, because generally what happens is that that is almost like avoiding it or running from it. When we can really face it, when we can feel balanced enough to sort of really look at what's going on and understand what's going on, we can move mountains and we can really feel balanced. We can really feel like we can take a breath and recalibrate and respond rather than just sort of reacting from a charged place. And so we're going to talk a lot about being in a neutral space, being in an uncharged place so that we can make good decisions and we can make the decisions that we want to, and we can make the decisions that will help people and help ourselves rather than being in a contracted state, in a frequency that does not serve us, and a frequency that we don't wish to be in, and a frequency that we can be very aware of. Have you guys noticed every maybe once in a while you feel off, or you feel like you're not yourself, you're feeling like and you just don't know how to sort of pull yourself out of it even though you're recognizing you're feeling like that? We're going to give you a ton of tools this weekend to be able to really move through some of these, to recognize them. It's going to be a lot of fun. So our intention is to just spend this time today really getting into how and why our body does the things it does. And I am going to hand it over to Verena. We're going to introduce ourselves, tell you a little bit about ourselves. We're not just going to throw a bunch of information at you. A lot of times I just skip right through. You guys probably don't even know who we are. So I'll hand it over to Verena right away, and she can tell you about how she is going to chat with us tonight, and then I will hop back on after she is ready. Just let me know.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. And hello, everyone. The ones that don't know me, my name is Verena White, and I'm a kinesiologist. I'm a transcendence coach, and I work with energy, and I do lots of other different modalities that we bring into to work with clients. But Jackie and I have come together today just, well, with everything that she said. And today, session one is, well, the whole 3 days is about chaos to clarity. And today is about connection. So, okay, asked to unmute. Okay, all right. I'm looking at all these things on the screen, but it's all good. So today is about connection. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about feelings of in the collective, even, and especially in the collective and on an individual level, where there seems to be a lot of chaos. If we were just on the outside looking in and seeing what's going on in the world, it does trigger a lot of emotions in us. Some people, not everybody, but a lot of people, this is what's happening. And sometimes these triggers are on a personal level. Some people are looking at the world and getting triggered on a world level, because there's 3 parts. It's about how we see the world from ourselves, or how we see ourselves, how we see others, and how we see the world. And all of those 3 aspects, us, others, the world, triggers an emotional response in us. And we're going to be talking about an emotional response. And what we're talking about today is connection, because we are a mind, body, spirit complex as a human. We're not just a physical body. We're not just our thoughts. And I believe everyone that's on this call is probably very aware of what we are, like that we do. There's more than just this physical, because otherwise I can't imagine that you would be here with us today. So we want to go deeper on that. We want to talk about disconnection, because when we're feeling anxious, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when there is when there's fear, when we feel like we have panic attacks, and we just feel like the world is chaos and we don't know what the next step is, it's because we have a disconnection. And so to talk about connection, and we must understand what a disconnection is, when it happens, how it happens. And so this is what today is about: connection. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about discernment and perception, and how we can then use ourselves as a mind, body, spirit complex to actually be able to discern what is the right information. How do we use our intuition? And obviously it's a broad look at things. So I'm going to just, those of you who've been working in this work for a while, I am going to go back to some foundational stuff, and then we get into the fun stuff with Jackie later. But just the foundational stuff is if you can see my board. So as we are a mind, body, spirit complex, we are three things. And we are also in the physical body, which is also there's a teacher called Simone Walsh, or I can't remember, Simone, anyway, I'll double check because I'll talk about it tomorrow. She talks specifically about the gut, heart, and brain connection. And these systems are on our other trilateral information system, where we actually receive. This is where we can discern information. This is when we get messages that maybe be misconstrued, or we feel like we're getting messages from source, and it doesn't, but it actually puts us in a fearful place, or maybe sends us in a place that maybe we didn't really want to go, or we didn't think that was our path. It's about learning to use our body as a physical tool to actually discern information. And actually, with Jackie, we're going to be talking about regulating the nervous system, because when the nervous system is regulated, we're getting clearer messages from source, from our intuition. So going back, rewinding back to that, we are conscious, unconscious, superconscious. We are physical, mental, spiritual. And to be in our fullest potential. I'll just there's someone in the waiting room. To be in our fullest potential, we have to be accessing all parts. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your creation story. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how that works. So when we have disconnection, it is because we have cut ourselves off from our spiritual. And it's not that you're cut off all the time. Like, people will say, well, no, I'm connected. But when you feel anxious, when you have panic attacks, when you feel overwhelmed, it is a disconnection from source. And that is when we are working towards, like, the physical body. Maybe you become to a physical event, it triggers, or maybe you're watching something on TV and it triggers an emotional response. That emotional response will go into your unconscious mind, and it will say, oh, what is my experience in this lifetime, or through my ancestral line, or past, what is my experience with this? And it will feed back what it is there. So we're not connecting to the universal field. We're not connecting to our infinite wisdom. We're connecting to a limited version of ourselves, a limited perception. So this is where the disconnection happens. When we are feeling overwhelmed, and part of that is an emotional alignment. And I'm just going to share my screen. I think I can share my screen. And this is when we did the emotional clarity. When we are at a frequency under 200 hertz, that is when we feel more, that's when we start to feel disconnection. Because under 200 hertz is contractionary. Under 200 is when we're feeling, when there's anger, when there is unresolved desire, grief, guilt. And it's not saying that you're always going to be disconnected. It's just when you're in alignment with these emotions, you're disconnected. And this is why you can't receive. When you're in alignment with source, when you're in alignment with your superconscious, you will find inner peace. You will get that guidance that you need to make the next step. And so this is where we want just to have that awareness of, that it is available to you. Inner peace is available to you. Divine guidance is available to you. It's just that we're given this body, we're giving these thoughts and all these tools, but we haven't always been given the instructions on how to use it. And sometimes they just happen. Like when we're in a flow state, it's easy to move on to the next, and because you're in alignment on a frequency level, so it just flows. But when we are in the disconnect, that is when we need to know the tools and techniques to be able to transcend that state. And it is possible. We are amazing beings that can transcend the current state. And it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's not spiritually bypassing your emotions. It's not bypassing that this situation is unpleasant or sad or challenging. It is actually to know that I have the tools to transcend it, because on your individual soul's journey, we go through challenges to rise above it, to transcend it. And this is why everyone is on a different path. And this is why we need to tap into our inner guidance. We need to tap into our superconscious, our universal field, because that is where we get the instructions for our individual soul's path. And we have different soul's paths. Like we'll have a soul's journey that maybe isn't to the fullest potential, but then we have a highest timeline where we are receiving our fullest potential, and that's where we want to be. That's always the goal, is to move towards our fullest potential, to find inner peace, to be making decisions or being on a path where we receive fulfillment as a mind, body, spirit complex, as a human. So the disconnection happens when we are triggered with emotion. If we're watching, for example, if we're watching the news, which I don't choose to, and I haven't for probably 5 years. I probably haven't watched, if anything happens, don't worry, someone will tell you. You won't miss out. And it's like, I don't engage onto that frequency level because it's in a fear-based. It's a fear collective. And that's what it's for. And it's a disconnection from your source. And there's other things like there's other media that will be a disconnection from source, like that brings your vibration down. There's a number of things that could be addictions and other things that will shift your frequency, which will disconnect you. And some of our disconnection happens through conditioning. And this is where we go to the human journey. And I want to share with you today our creation story. Our creation story, so we know that we were never disconnected. And it's about restructuring, but also new instructions. When we are now in the conscious, in the physical, we're often trying to change things. Oh, I feel this in the physical experience, in the 3D emotions, and this is how I react to it. So we're constantly in a cycle or getting stuck or repeating ourselves. But when we started, and this is going back to the Hermetic principles, the universal principles, is that everything is mind. And when I say mind, I don't mean mental. I mean universal mind. I mean source consciousness. We started off as a thought. We started off as a thought, and this is getting into our creation story. And I want to share that with you. So our unconscious mind actually loves stories. That's why we have fairy tales. That's why we have mythology, because our unconscious mind learns from stories. So I'm going to tell you a metaphor and a story about your creation. And so to help you remember where your power is, and to remember that you came here connected. It's not something that you need to recreate. It's just something you need to remember. And we're going to do a process with Jackie at the end where she's going to really help you get into that frequency and really embody that connection back with your source code, with your original, how you came here. So when we came here, we were a thought. And from that thought, we chose to come here and have this physical experience. We chose here, whether it's that we choose our parents, we choose the experience, we chose to come here. And the first expression of physical life, and this is where all parts come together, the first expression of physical life is when your mother, when you go for an ultrasound and you hear the heartbeat of the child or the soul. Maybe that's what we'll use, the soul. When you hear the heartbeat of the soul, And this will come into greater awareness when Jackie talks about birthing this new way of being. But when our first physical essence reaches this 3D plane, it's the heartbeat. And that's what we hear in the ultrasound, is the heartbeat. And from that heartbeat is connected to source energy. Your heart is your portal to the universal field. It is like your direct line, your direct communication. That never changes. So when we are created, our heartbeat, and through that beautiful frequency of heart, of love, of creation, the heartbeat that we're going to connect to later is actually giving the frequency that gives the instructions, the invisible instructions, the amazing unlimited instructions that we created this physical body. This unlimited instruction, these divine instructions that was given through our heart space, created our organs, our brain, our large intestine, our gut, our skin, the blood, everything, the cells, the neurons, everything was created beginning with the instructions given through the heartbeat. Now, this is a metaphor. It's not something that you can, take to a medical anything, but this is the metaphor that we started as pure consciousness. We started as this beautiful divine being that was given instructions on how to create this physical body so we could be here in this physical realm to create. And there is a beautiful, I think Wayne Dyer talked about the story of a baby being born and knowing that they have everything they need. And I know there can be some trauma in utero, which I know I've cleared with many clients, but there is this beautiful knowing that they have everything they need. They are fed, they are warm, they're in a safe space. And when they're born, and sometimes through the trauma of birth, disconnection happens, because then it goes into fear, or there's the ability of the unknown. But even in those first couple of years, you'll see the magic of children, that they still have their connection to source. They still have their imagination that is so beautiful, their innocence that connects them to guidance. If left alone, they know what they want. Of course, left alone, they need caring, but it's like with their connection and their thoughts, their conditioning happens after birth. A lot of the time, the conditioning and the disconnection, if it hasn't happened, in birth, sometimes it does. The disconnection happens with the physical. And so then as we get older, we create beliefs and programs and identities that allows us to how we see ourselves in this physical world. And some of them are empowering and work for us, and some of them work against us. And the ones that are not empowering, the ones that are limited, they are the ones that disconnect you from source. They are the ones that maybe people will talk about ego-based, that they make you feel like you're limited or that you have no choice, and anxiety is fear of the future. But your superconscious your source code knows your future, knows there's many timelines, knows that you can choose it, and it knows where you are. But if we're disconnected from that version of you, you then feel uneasy. That's when anxiety steps in. And so it's like when we go in, we could go into another part of all talking about that there is no time and everything's happening at once, but I won't confuse the situation. But your superconscious knows your future. It's not going to interact with you. There's free will, and it's the observer. It's not going to say, no, don't do that. It's just observing the experience. But we do have the ability to then give the superconscious instructions. The conscious mind wants a better life. It doesn't want to feel anxiety. It wants to have clarity. it's from this we know once we reconnect and activate the heart space, which is, like I said before, the portal. The heart space is the portal to your source code, to your soul. That's where you can get the information from, and then you can retrain the unconscious mind. And we do that with our coaching clients. We do that when we do the processes in the inner circle, and when Jackie and I work with our individual clients. But this is just generally that we have access to this beautiful information. And it's just we haven't always been given the right instructions, and we're not always sure what has disconnected us. But to know that when we are feeling certain things, that we are disconnected from that place, and it's not necessarily who we are. It's just seems to be the perception we are taking at that time. And as in A Course in Miracles, a miracle happens when we change our perception. And we can change our perception when we look at things through the eyes of source, through your superconscious. That's when you can see possibilities. That's when you connect to the next step. That's when you can find inner peace, and you can move from victim to thriver, or victim to, you move out of the victim mindset, or even the problem solving mindset, and you realize that you came here to be a creator. You came here to be a creator of your circumstance, and that you can handle, because you were connected to this unlimited source of energy, this unlimited field of information, that you can find peace, that you know there is a path for you. And that when we go to that place, that's when the anxiety, the panic attacks, the disconnection, you transcend it, it dissipates. And it's not saying it won't ever come back, but once you have the tools to know how to manage it, to know what the core of it is, to know that you are greater than your circumstance, then you become a master of life. And that is what emotional mastery is about. We want to be a master of life. It doesn't mean we're not going to experience challenges or even observe them in the world, but it doesn't mean that we are going to be thrown around like a towel in a washing machine. It means that we can find our inner peace, our inner guidance, and find the true meaning of it for our individual soul's journey. Because if we look outside of ourselves for answers to relief, when we look outside of ourselves for relief, for answers of how we feel, that's when we feel disconnected. Because our first port of call needs to be the inner work of what does this mean to me? How am I seeing this? How can I find peace in this situation? And I think I'm just checking my notes. So I think that just what I wanted to get through today, and if anyone wants to share, if they have any questions about anything that I said, is to sort of get some clarity around disconnection, how it happens. Often we're disconnected in childhood, but we have moments of connection. And a lot of you ladies or gentlemen that are on the call today, that you will know connection because you've done practices like meditation and you've gone into spaces of feeling truly connected. But knowing that we have the tools to transcend when we feel disconnected, especially when we are in a period of chaos. We know that chaos seeks balance. And when we are connected to our highest version of ourselves, which is through source energy, which is through our superconscious, when we are connected to that aspect of us, then our balance point is going to be up here. Our balance point, and I'll share my screen one more time before I finish up. Our balance point can be up here, which is like when we come back to when we're observing chaos, our world, our unconscious mind will seek balance. Where we want our unconscious mind to seek balance is up here. In love, in understanding, acceptance, optimism, courage even. Anything above 200, we want our balance point to be empowering, to be in self-awareness. If our balance point is stuck in fear, anxiety, despair, grief, shame, then our balance point will come down to here. And that is when we find ourselves in a victim cycle, or we find ourselves in a bit of a trap of like feeling despair and feeling overwhelm. So this is what these 3 days are about, to one, show you it's possible, maybe give you some tools and help you feel it in some of the processes we're going to do. So I'm going to hand over to Jackie, and thank you. If you have any questions, I'm just going to check. If you have any
Yeah, if you guys,
questions, yeah,
yeah, feel
just
free
put it
to
in, and
chat
I'll
in.
either type back, or we can talk later. We'll have a bit of time, but I'll hand it over to Jackie. Thank you.
That's awesome, Rena. Thank you. I love our chart there. There's a few different charts that show frequencies of emotions, but I love how we broke this one down in, you can see that green part in the middle. That's kind of where our recalibration point is, that 0 point where you're not charged, like there's that song, Johnny Put Your Guns Away. If you go into a situation, say that proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, there's been lots of stuff kind of piling up. It only, you're sort of charged at that point, right? And it only takes one small thing to just set you off completely and kind of ruin your whole day, ruin your whole week, ruin your whole month, even in the decisions that we make. Because if we're in those lower red frequencies of anger, fear, despair, we're feeling that, we're in that vibration. Think about if someone's trying to give you something. Someone, you're in that state of lack, and you're in that, like, I don't even want to, you feel it. You can feel contracted. You feel constricted, like someone's strangling you. If someone's going to try and give you something in that state, you're not even going to want to accept it. And that came about with one of my clients who were talking about feeling worthy, feeling, that state of abundance. He knew that he needed a new vehicle, and we were kind of in the same space. And I realized that we were actually blessed with a neighbor of ours giving us all the parts. Like, their vehicle died, and they gave us their vehicle to fix ours because my husband had done something really great for them. And they gave us this, and it was everything we needed, and we fixed our truck, and we were in a real predicament because we needed a second vehicle by this certain time, because we both had to be going certain ways with our kids, and I just didn't know how it was going to happen. And normally my state would be, I can't, I feel bad that someone's going to give me something. I feel bad. I was always feeling bad if someone was going to give something to me. And the fact that they gave this to us, and I didn't even realize that, I was just like, oh, that's amazing. That's great. I accepted it so willingly, but I realized that I wouldn't have always. And that over my life, I've not accepted a lot, just because I wasn't in that vibration of receiving, of accepting. I was more in a vibration of, there's something wrong with me, or, I'm going to owe them. So it was all about the frequencies. And frequencies just make so much sense to me because I do so much energy work. And by the way, I'm Jackie Aiken. I didn't really introduce myself. I was so excited at first to just be on here with all this energy, and we've been waiting to do this. I didn't really say much about myself, but I'm a retired massage therapist. I got into a really bad accident, blew out my shoulder, and haven't been able to get back to it. I still do like one a week or something, but that's really about all my body can handle. But been able to transform back into the energy work that I used to do before. And when I started massage therapy, and being able to dial into the acupressure points and the acupuncture points and the frequencies, and be able to kind of help people on a journey to be able to notice when they're in that contracted state, and when they want to shift out of it, when they're just like, you know what, I'm just ready to kind of go a little bit further. That's where I love being able to help them to see how much power they really have, to be able to find that true purpose inside of them, to be able to use a lot of these tools to be able to literally let some of this stuff go in a really organic way, not, forcing thoughts, not forcing vibration, but allowing yourself to naturally shift in really small ways. And, climbing a mountain takes one little step at a time. So I started to look into teaching breath work. So I took all those courses, and then I started to look into teaching integrated health. I wanted to get into, I started taking course after course, and all of this information sort of led back to the same thing. If we can actually take a moment, do the work. We know all the things, and you guys probably know all the things, but it's just integrating them, doing them for ourselves, allowing ourselves to feel, to take that time, getting into that feminine energy where we accept that we need rest, that we accept that we have this balance of feminine and masculine, where we can't, if we're just doing all the time, that we're almost forcing something. It's that beautiful time of surrendering and allowing it to all happen, to know that it is all meant to work out, tapping into that super conscious, as Verena said, to be able to actually connect and know that there is more to our life than just struggle. There's more to our life than just feeling like we're hanging on to a stick that's just, keeping us with our heads above water. I hear a lot, to actually thrive instead of just being able to survive. And after my accident, I had panic attacks. I had like the physical sweats, the symptoms, the things that were going on in the car while I was trying to drive. Like, I thought I was going to pass out. Having a panic attack is a very, very scary thing. And so I dove into the differences between anxiety and panic. And with anxiety, especially with the body, it's a dysregulated nervous system. Just like we're disconnected on a frequency level, that happens on a neurological level. Our nervous system actually dysregulates. And so we have to get back to that ground zero, to that neutral state, so that we're not charged, so that we can then choose, okay, I want to be in this higher state. I'm noticing I was feeling really verklempt and I didn't like it. That's when we know something's usually not in alignment. So we should be able to look at these emotions, these ways that we're feeling, and actually use them as our compass, use them as our guide. Does it feel good? We might be able to actually do more of that. And that might actually create more of what we want. It's literally as simple as, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? Sometimes there's people that you're going to have to go and be around. It doesn't feel good. Sometimes we have to do these things anyways. Sometimes we have to go to work even though we don't like it. We can't just be feeling good all the time, but we can make the choice to make it the best that we can, even when we're going into a work situation. So one of the really fun exercises I love doing is at like an EFT type of thing. There's a couple of things that regulate the nervous system very, very easily, and breath work is one of them. So when we're going to go into just a little 10-minute meditation right away, where I'm going to bring you guys through a process where we connect with our heart, and I'm going to bring in some of our frequencies that we work with. I don't know if you guys have all heard of matrix energetics. It's quite a neat system. There's 21 frequencies that they kind of work with. And I'm going to, while we're going into meditation, I'm going to bring in these frequencies so that you guys can feel what it feels like to actually be meditating with a frequency, and so that you can use this yourself. And so that you have a little tool with meditation. Every Friday night, I do like a really deep meditation into whether it's full moon, manifestation, letting stuff go. We kind of do some inner soul retrieval work. Sometimes we do all sorts of stuff. But tonight, instead of going in super deep, what we're going to do is we're going to go be with our thoughts. So it's going to be kind of like, if you've never meditated before, you'll be able to just do this meditation at a time where you're trying to kind of sort your thoughts, when you're trying to understand what's going on in the chaos. It's like a unlocking the chaos meditation. It's going to be very, very simple. And it's literally something that you can do almost anywhere. If you were in the car and you were having a panic attack, you could allow yourself to do this. Now, the one thing about anxiety and panic attacks is when we try and self-regulate, when we try the breath work, when we try the get a grip on it, when we try the whatever it is, sometimes even the tapping, what can end up happening sometimes is this sort of, it's like a cognitive coherence. So what will happen is we're training our brain, if we're trying to just avoid it or run from it, that it's still not safe. So that can create more panic or anxiety. When we can lean into it a little bit, you guys have probably heard the the analogy, no more fear. Yes. And this is the analogy, do it in fear. If you're afraid of it, do it, like, just, that's like the only way to crush through. The only way to kill anxiety is to just power through it. Just do it with fear. And it's true, because what happens is our brain is actually, when we go into anxiety, our brain, like Verena said, it's afraid of of the future, of the unknown. It doesn't know, it's unsafe. However, panic is often fear that you're going to die, fear that you may have almost died. It's a real protective thing. And a panic attack will be like 10 minutes or less, very physical. You'll sweat, you'll have the tunnel vision, you'll not be able to breathe, you feel like you have to move, like you have to get out. I didn't even know what a panic attack was until I had one. While my a year after my accident, my husband was letting my 13 and 14-year-old daughter get used to driving on our back roads. And they're like, hop in the Jeep. So I hopped in the back. Well, we got to the end of the road. And when she went to go turn around to back up, I literally had to get out of the car. I had to, like I feel teary even just thinking about it. I had to, no worries, Jenny, hop on in. And I had to, like, flung the door open and fell out of the car. I was throwing up on the road. I was like, what the heck was, then my poor daughter was having a conniption fit because she thought I did this to her. Like, she did this to me because she was driving. And I was like, I don't even know what that was. I felt awful having a panic attack. It's like you're almost out of control of your body. And unless someone's, been through that sort of severeness, they're like, oh, panic attack, it's just a little anxiety. They are very different. They have a lot of shared things where, even with anxiety, you can get sweaty, you can get dizzy, you can have the shakes, you can get like a really fast heartbeat. You have all these physical attributes to an actual anxiety attack. But what's detrimental is when it stays that way, because our nervous system is trying to reset itself. The parasympathetic nervous system always wants to be able to come in and actually shut off that fight or flight response, but we are innately responding to something that may kill us. So it's a very supportive thing. We need to have a little bit of panic to make sure that we're staying alive, to make sure that we're actually doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, that we're not going to go touch a hot stove, things like this. But when the problem happens is when it doesn't shut off on its own because of chronic stress or because of things continually happening. And so when we're in these situations, sometimes it's hard to be able to get out of them. The breath work can be very, very handy. For some people, things like that work. But for others, we actually have to literally sit with the emotion for a moment. We have to try and understand what it is that these emotions are telling us. And this is where the clarity comes in. When we're in a situation and it is utter chaos, if we're in a contracted state, it's just going to feel like more chaos, and it's going to be very difficult to try and move out of it. When we're open to clarity, when we can move up that scale just a little bit into acceptance, into a little bit of gratitude, maybe. You always hear about gratitude journals, right? That's probably one of the number one things to end up calming, curbing, and re-regulating your nervous system, is writing or feeling gratitude. So spending just a couple minutes, I call them my gratitudes, where at night I get excited and I climb into bed and I'm like, ooh, I get to do my gratitudes, and I think about all the things I'm super grateful for. I don't know why I call it that, but it's like a cute name. And it just makes me get excited. I get excited when I wake up in the morning because I try and do that first thing in the morning in that theta state, but I can do it easier every morning now by doing it every night, because I'm going to bed in that energy, in that uncontracted state, in that grateful state, in that vibration of like 400, 500. Once you get into true appreciation, like further than gratitudes, you can go into appreciation. Like, I really appreciate the fact that my teenagers, as stressful as teenagers can be, they're such good teenagers. They're such good kids. Like, I really feel so appreciative of that, appreciative of my neighbor who gave us these parts for our vehicle, like, just so willingly, just so appreciative of the fact that I was talking with Verena right before this, that we're able to do this work, that we're able to, our husbands, work so that we can do this work that we love. We can spend every day literally diving into more of this, learning more of this, helping people. There's nothing that lights me up like being able to bring someone through a time in their life where even I've just been noticing such huge shifts with so many people that I'm working with. It's like when I look back at their notes from 3, 6, 9 months ago, they're completely different people. And that's what made me feel like when I was a massage therapist, I was also a doula. And so Verena, the other day, she's like, "You're a frequency doula." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." Because as a doula, I take people, a doula is a birthing assistant, basically. So for 20 years, I've been helping babies be born. And the most beautiful thing about it is that it's completely unique. We always laugh at the nurses when we get there because it's like, well, guess we'll see what this one wants to do. Like, you have no idea what you're going into. And it's kind of the same thing with coaching. You really don't know what kind of experience this person's had, what kind of experience this person wants. You kind of know this experience that they do want. And with all the tools that are sort of floating around in here, I help them get there. But it's a completely different experience for every single person. For some, I do tapping with. For some, I do bioenergy work with. For some, we end up having to do even tapping for things like eating disorders, depending on what it is. Like, there's all these different tools that we can use. My essential oils, oh, so it had who is that had a doula for your second birth? See, once you've had a doula, you're like, I wish I had known about having a doula. Jenny had a doula. That was so cool. Having a doula is basically what they do. My best trick as a doula is getting a person into the acceptance that their contractions are going to be a minute long. And in the whole of the birthing experience, the contractions are almost even worse than the pushing anything, because you don't know when they're going to end. You don't. So when we can take that control over that contraction and know that that 1 minute is going to be what's basically that pressure that's going to squeeze that baby, is like pushing itself out and then relaxing. And that relaxing time, we'll go back to playing Scrabble in between. But that minute that the contraction's happening, it's like, no, no, no. And you start to fight it. Well, if you don't fight it and you don't try and run from it and you lean into it, I get them hip squeezing. I give them all these exercises to do while they're doing that contraction. I meditate with them for that minute. I bring them through that 1 minute. It's done. It's the easiest birthing experience because the pain is only that minute. And the contracted state is much like that. We're not going to have a baby without the contraction. So taking us through our contracted states, the most beautiful thing is when you can get a person to be able to just get into their gratitude or their acceptance state by almost flipping that switch. It's magical, because the decisions that you're going to make for yourself, about yourself, and for your family, and that will affect your family. Think about the decisions that you would make if you're all charged up in the morning and you're set off already by all the emails, all these people wanting you, then your kid wants something else. And like, we may yell, we may snap, we may act like we are not ourselves because we're in that contracted state. Whereas if we wake up and we're in that sort of discharged, uncharged, neutral state, it's so much easier to get to acceptance, and it's so much easier to react how we want to and breathe and do the things we want to do from that state. So that's why frequencies are so important. So a way that I love, if you guys haven't been able to do much tapping before, tapping is all about the acupressure points. And there's some people that say science supports it, some people say that it doesn't. But some very, very basics of breath work and tapping so that you guys can try and practice this after tonight. I was thinking of giving you some homework as to actually tapping into something that you sort of are ready to let go, something that you know has just kind of been bugging you, even if you just want to start understanding yourself a little bit better. If you're ready to just kind of start to surrender, start to allow your intuition to kick in a little bit more, you can sort of work with something like that. But I thought that it would be really fun to just run through the tapping points with you guys really quick. So if you were trying to help someone, or if you were having a situation yourself where you're feeling kind of contracted, you basically start with that. You have a dialogue in your head. Now, I do tapping slightly differently than a lot of the other teachers. Some of them will make you stay on one spot for a super long time. All we're going to do is I'm going to run through a dialogue. And if I'm going through something where I'm like, okay, Say for example, the other day my teenager had sort of set the tone for, it was kind of grumpy, and it was like, okay, I'm not going to let this sort of take me down. You can end up literally having a conversation with yourself, and you can use the points. You can actually just have the conversation with yourself. Having the conversation with yourself is enough to bring light to a subject so that you can work through it. But when we actually instill it in the physical body with a little bit of tapping, you get that release right away. That parasympathetic nervous system is touched by a lot of these points. So I love using them, and I just want to teach you guys a few of them so that you can actually have a little dialogue to yourself. So the dialogue would go something along the lines of, I'm feeling really stressed about this right now, right? So there's a karate chop point, and it's right in the middle of the hand. And this is an acupressure point that even if you just rub, you don't necessarily have to tap it. It's beautiful for unlocking intuition. It's beautiful for headaches. It's beautiful for the spine. If you were to do acupressure, acupuncture, this is the spine. So it's going to go along your whole central nervous system. So you literally just start having the conversation about what's going on, especially if you're having a bit of anxiety, a bit of panic, like I'm really feeling anxious about this. I had someone going in for surgery tomorrow. So today we were doing a tapping thing. Okay, I'm feeling really nervous about going in for surgery tomorrow. Okay, so then we go to the second spot, and this is the forehead. So you go right on the inside of the eyebrows, and you don't have to do it with both, but you can. And you just tap, and you just end up, even if it's just on one side, it doesn't matter. You just start tapping on the inside of your eyebrow, and you're like, okay, I feel a little fearful about tomorrow because I'm going under anesthetic. And you just have this dialogue with yourself. And then you move to the outside of the eyebrow. Some of the things about hospital, I really don't like hospitals. And you can just have this dialogue with yourself, and you move through all the negative thoughts about what's going on with this situation. I don't like being out of control. I don't want to be out of control. And you touch then the bridge of the nose. So you go inside of eyebrow, outside of eyebrow, bridge of nose. And then you keep tapping there. I'll take my glasses off there. So even though I have to go in for surgery tomorrow, we start getting into acceptance. Now we go right above the lip. So right underneath the nose, right above the lip, you can start moving into, I feel the doctors that are working on me are more than qualified. And then you move to underneath the chin, and right where that crease is underneath the bottom lip and the chin, you can start imagining the fact that you feel pretty okay about going in here. You wanted this surgery, whatever it is, you start getting into acceptance. Even though this has happened, I know I'm in the right place at the right time. And you start going into that true acceptance state. Now you bring it down to the clavicles. And clavicles are where we start to get some energy. So here's where we start to get into acceptance. I feel like this time after the surgery is actually going to be really beneficial for me to heal. And you just keep sort of tapping along the clavicle. The next point is right underneath the armpit. So you lift your arm and you just tap sort of where your bra strap would be. And same thing, I just kind of whack it. I just sort of slap it because it's easier than tapping sometimes. Doesn't make things shake around as much. And just give it a little bit of a clap. And as you're going through these points, it's starting to instill this into your brain. And it's not even so much the dialogue, but you're letting the dialogue work out in your head while you're moving through these points. And so while you're under in this armpit, I know I will be in a safe space. And you just start accepting that you will be safe. And now you move to the top of the head, and now we've done a full round. So even if it's just one hand, you go to the top of the head and you keep tapping. And you start thinking about the good things about it. I will have a week to actually just recover. And then you can bring your fingers down into the middle. You can get silly. You can be like, maybe I'll even eat ice cream, bring it to the inside of the eyebrow. If I feel like I'm panicking, I know I can just breathe and bring it to the outside of the eyebrow. I'm going to enjoy having a little bit of time and space Might even make a few phone calls while I'm off and start thinking about the good things about being off, having this. I will be feeling better, won't have these problems anymore. Moving through to the bridge of the nose. And then we go down underneath the nose. You keep going through basically until you have no dialogue left. If there's anything that comes up that's, a thought that's feeling kind of negative, that's bringing you into that contracted state, allow it. Look at it. I feel like I've been afraid of hospitals because of my grandpa. You can actually bring this thought in. And when you do, and you're tapping, you can feel it sort of move through your body. It's quite amazing. So this takes a little while to really get, there's about 5,000 scripts for tapping that you can go through for different things. The ones I really like are for emotional eating and cravings and things like that, because the shifts happen almost right away where you can do things like this. But those tapping points, even if you're not saying a dialogue and you're just having an anxiety or panic attack, go through those points. Start with the karate chop point, get the spine involved, start moving through. I often ask people, if they're having a lot of anxiety, we'll do a tapping thing just to get them grounded. If I ask them how big their anxiety was at first versus in the end, oftentimes it's really reduced by the end. And if you haven't looked into tapping before, it's something that is a really great tool, and they're always with you. And it's something you can do, while you're going to sleep, while you're having emotional things where they feel really big, where the waves are really huge and you can't actually get them to sort of calm down. So I promised that I was going to do this really cool meditation, and it is a very quick one. It is not a super long one. So if you guys are in for 10 more minutes with us, I'd love to just take you through a beautiful meditation where we can actually feel that connection, that heart connection, like Verena said. Is that okay with you guys to just stay for 10 more minutes to do that? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Sorry, I would try and respect your time. I get really excited talking about all the things, all the things that we can do. I didn't even get into the other 7 things that we can do for anxiety and panic, like with the breath work, with essential oils. I was putting essential oils on before. My black spruce right here is the frequency of over 500. So if I'm feeling contracted and I'm in a state of 20 in fear or anger, I literally go take a drop of my black spruce. I put it on my hands. I give it a little rub. I rub it together and I just literally cup it around my nose and mouth. I inhale that. That's the cedar trees. It's just like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And I can put it on my neck. I'm literally changing my frequency and I can feel those tingles happening almost instantly. So something, there's so many little tools out there. We're going to get into them over the next few days. We won't load it all on you on one day, but now that I'm black spruced up here, I'm going to take you guys into a beautiful little meditation. So this is just a thought meditation. What we're going to do is allow our thoughts to come up. We're going to just connect with our heart. This isn't going to be a super deep meditation, so you don't have to go lie down or anything. And generally, when we're in the deep ones, sometimes you can end up getting knocked out. This one likely won't, but you may feel you might even lose where you were for a few minutes. So don't feel upset if you don't remember everything that you were thinking about when you were in the meditation. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to close your eyes with me, because when we close our eyes, what we do is we turn off that outer distraction. We allow ourselves to get connected into our hearts. And I'd love you to just notice what your breath is like right now. And I don't want you to force it, but we're going to look at the space between our breaths. So when we take a deep breath in through our nose, I want you to imagine your belly filling up. You're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, and you're going to just hold your breath at the top for about 2 seconds. And then when you breathe out, I'd love for you to just crack your lips and just relax every cell in your body as you breathe out. And I like to try and imagine breathing out just a little bit longer than you're breathing in. That resets that vagus nerve. You might feel yourselves yawn. One of the beautiful things I love about yawning is, have you ever wondered why when you yawn, other people yawn? It's because we're a herd mentality, we're a herd animal. And in the collective like this, when we all get into this space together, you can start to feel it. You can start to feel that energy, start to feel the frequencies kind of shift a little bit. And so even if you fake a yawn, it's a beautiful way to open up that vagus nerve and regulate your nervous system. So yawning is such a beautiful thing. Sometimes people find that when they first start to get into meditation, their body will actually yawn. So if you haven't, you can pretend that you're yawning. You can regulate your nervous system right away just by doing that. And I'd like you to just keep breathing. So breathe in through the nose. Notice the temperature of the breath. And then hold it for just 2 seconds at the top of that breath. And as you exhale, allow your whole body to relax. Let your shoulders drop. Let your belly deflate. Let all that air just move through and just notice your breath. And I want you to pay attention to something special right now that's going on inside of your body that you may be able to actually feel right now. I want you to feel for your heartbeat. I want you to quiet your mind, quiet your breath for just a moment. And notice if you can feel your heart beating. Notice if you can feel the blood pumping through your feet or through your legs. Sometimes it feels like a little flutter. Sometimes we even feel a little flutter above our heart. That's our high heart tuning in. That's our connection to source. It's when you almost feel as though there's a little flutter going on. And just connecting to your breath, paying attention as you breathe in through your nose, that your belly is inflating, that your lungs are inflating, that all the air is moving into your body. And again, as you breathe out, just relaxing every cell in your body. And right now I want you to imagine that there's roots growing out of your feet and that you're standing in a forest. And as you're standing in this forest, you can feel your body start to be encompassed by this beautiful frequency. This is called frequency number 14, and I'm just going to help bring this in right now. This frequency feels like a rainforest would be just coming around you, and I want you to imagine that you're standing in a rainforest right now, that this beautiful energy, it's like mossy green, is just surrounding you, just holding you, embracing every cell, as your body feels as though it's growing roots deep down into the earth. Imagine your feet on this beautiful green earth, and they're just growing these roots that are tapping down into Mother Earth, into this beautiful crystalline energy that is right at the center of the earth. And this is tapping into frequency number 1, that is a beautiful reddy gold color that's just going to increase the vitality to every single cell of your body. And I want you to notice that it's starting to move up your feet as it's coming through the roots from the middle of the earth, coming in through your feet, coming in through your ankles and your legs, and it's starting to just make every cell in your body turn into this beautiful crystalline light as you're standing in this amazing rainforest, and just feel all of these colors coming together, all of these energies coming together, almost like you're tuning into a radio station until you hear that music that you just absolutely love. And that music is this beautiful rainforest sound. I want you to imagine that you are standing by a stream. Now, this stream could look any way. It could be darker water. It could be the most clearest, beautiful stream you've ever seen. It could be fresh mountain water that's just moving along ever so slowly, but it's a babbling stream, a flowing stream. And I want you to just imagine what it would feel like to be in that rainforest right now. What would the frequency of that rainforest be? Would it be healing? Would it be muted? Would it be soft? Would it be embracing? What would it sound like? What would the babbling stream sound like? What would it sound like in this beautiful rainforest with the birds and maybe the trees rustling? Imagine the smells from a stream, the deep woody smells that you can smell, the fresh grass, the moisture in the air. What does it smell like? What does it feel like in your nose as you breathe it in? Are there rocks? Are there colors? What do the rocks look like? Are they smooth? Are they underwater? Are they outside of? Imagining the path that's under your feet, I want you to walk closer to the stream and notice that there are a few leaves that are just starting to float down the stream. You're just standing by the stream and you're just noticing these beautiful leaves that are just floating down the stream. And right now, I want you to welcome in some thoughts. I want you to welcome in some stories. And the thoughts that come to mind at first are thoughts that you're going to take, and you're going to take those thoughts and you're going to place them ever so carefully on the leaf that's floating down the stream. Whether you take these thoughts and you whisper them into your hand and you spread them on the leaf, whether you actually take the leaf out of the stream and physically put your thought right on top of it. It may look like words, it may look like a picture, it may look like a story that you're just moving through. But I want you to allow all of the thoughts that are coming in one by one to join with these leaves and just literally detach yourself from the thought. Remove it from your brain, from your conscious field, from your superconscious field, from your unconscious mind. Allow that thought and that story to be extracted right now. Whatever it may be, I can't get better because I have this problem, because this is silly. I need to go get my laundry done. All these thoughts, I want you to just let them come. We're not pushing any thoughts down. We're not pushing any thoughts away. In fact, we're inviting thoughts that have been floating around that are ready to maybe move on. Or maybe that we've just been noticing lately. Have some truths been coming up for you lately? Have some things been repeating themselves? Have you been noticing patterns that you're fed up with, that you're truly ready to change? I just need to. What are the things that have been floating? And I want you to, one by one, place them on the leaf and simply watch them float downstream. Noticing these thoughts aren't disappearing. You're just watching them for as far as you can. They still exist. Simply detaching them from your spirit, from your mind, from your body, from your soul, and simply allowing them to be. Perhaps even learning from them some more positive thoughts that are coming out now from where you're going. Where are you going? What kind of life do you want to have? What kind of life are you really ready for? Maybe it feels like you're ready more for it now than you ever have been, but you just weren't sure exactly how to get there. Put that thought on a leaf and let it go. Imagine it floating down the stream and look at the colors again in the water, in the trees around you. Imagine some of those sounds, some of those birds, some of those rustling of leaves, and perhaps just a babbling brook. And now for the last moment, I want you to think of a couple things that you really truly are grateful for. I want you to imagine that you're just waking up in your happy bed, in your comfy bed, and you don't have to go anywhere. What would you do all day if you could just do what makes you happy? What are those things that used to make you happy? Allow these thoughts to come through. Some of them are beautiful, fleeting thoughts that we've not really noticed. We've maybe pressed down. Taking that class, meeting that group, getting out with people more. What do you find yourself saying to yourself? And bringing that gratitude back. I want you to place your hands on your heart right now, feeling grateful, feeling calm, allowing that crystalline energy to move all the way up through your belly, all the way up into your heart and your throat and your head, allowing that grounding energy to just be embraced by Mother Earth, by all the energy that's flowing through you right now. I want you to tune into your heartbeat, your source connection. Taking a few nice deep breaths, I want you to notice your heartbeat. Can you feel it easier in this space than you did when we first started? Can you feel that heart pumping the blood through every cell, every body, noticing how magical it is that it doesn't need any direction. It doesn't need any instruction. Feeling that calmness, I want you to just imagine that light dissipating through your whole body and emanating every cell as it exudes far outside your body into all of the layers of light. And when you guys are ready, just take a nice receiving breath and you can open your eyes. And I'm curious if anyone could actually feel their heartbeat at the end. It's usually quite a profound feeling to actually feel your heartbeat if you haven't tuned into it before. And sometimes it's difficult at first when you first start to get into that meditative state because you're questioning it. But once you actually sort of raise that vibration a little bit, get into those just baby steps, frequency by frequency, you can often feel it. Was anyone able to feel a little flutter or a little acknowledgement that you could feel your heart beating in your body in any way that was just a little bit different than at first? We don't often tune into our heart like that, hey? Oh, that's awesome. You could feel it at both. There's a lot of intuitive and in-tune people here, so you've probably done something like this before where you've connected, but really connecting, if we're in a state of anxiety, if we're feeling, thank you guys for typing in, if we're feeling like we're getting a little bit out of control, we have this ability to be able to take that control back with our minds. So we're going to dive into a whole bunch more stuff over the next couple days to be able to really get that connection and now start to get this discernment of all of these things that we've learned, all of these, even as I was talking about state of lack before, I realized that I would stay in that state because it was something that I was very used to. I'm not used to feeling that state of abundance. That's a muscle that we need to work. And so bit by bit, we start working these muscles. So we're just really going to dive into some ways to be able to work this muscle so it's easier and easier every day. And by the end of these 3 days, you guys will be like energetic, glowing masterpieces that are just able to tap into your stories of your truth. And we're super excited to be able to spend some more time with you. Verena, I'll let you I had to double check my glasses. It was so slow. Oh, that's
Yeah, no,
nice.
no,
Yeah.
that was so beautiful. And I struggled to feel my heartbeat at the beginning. I could
Yeah.
visualize, but then at the end I could feel it, and it was perfect. And it really correlates with coming back to where we first began and knowing
Mm.
that we are spiritual consciousness and that we have that connection always. It's not something we have to relearn. It's more something we just have to remember to connect
Remember.
with. Yeah. And tomorrow, session 2. So I will wrap it up because we've taken your time today, but
Thank you, everybody.
today was about connection, and I think we did that beautifully. I hope everyone feels connected, they feel grounded, they feel their heart space is activated, and they can go throughout the day feeling that connection and groundedness, and hopefully some inner peace. So I look forward to hearing any information from tomorrow. So tomorrow is the same time. In Australia, for me, I'm in Melbourne, it's 11 a.m. and the Northern Hemisphere, I think it's 7 p.m. It'll be Saturday night, 7 p.m. Tomorrow, we are going to look at discernment and perception, and how do we use these tools of connection? how do we use these tools of connection to actually understand how we perceive the world and how our perception affects our frequency, how our perception affects our experience. And then we go into discernment. So then we're using our intuition, which is a great example, I think, to explain it, is that when we send the messages up, this is what I want, this is how I want to feel, to our source, to our superconscious, how we receive the messages back, the telephone call back, is through our intuition. And so that is what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. And what are the messages in our body that, like, through our gut, our heart, our brain, how do we use discernment to identify the messages and to move forward, and knowing that we are conscious creators, that we can actually choose that, we can actually do that. So we're going to go a bit further into that, and I want to thank you, beautiful ladies. I hope to see you all tomorrow. I'm overwhelmed and full of gratitude to have so many people here today to share this space with, because Jackie and I are so excited about sharing this work, because that's what we love. And I feel, going between now and the end of the year, it's so needed to be grounded, to be connected, to have discernment, to moving into this next chapter of our own growth and the world's growth, and to be as conscious as we can be to create the best experience that we want in this physical reality.
Yeah. The clarity available right now coming up with all of this energy is just so huge and powerful. It's going to be such an amazing shift. So
Letting go
I
of the
envision
old and
it all,
stepping into the
right?
new. And I think a lot of people on the call will probably be experiencing that in their personal life anyway, like letting go of the old and stepping into the new. And this is just that extra support, guidance, that little bit of a push to move us towards that.
So good.
Well, a
Thank you
hug, supporting a hug.
so much, everybody. You guys are just awesome. Thank you, Verena, for joining us. This is awesome. And we'll see you guys back at same time, same place tomorrow, same frequency. And if we'll put the replay in this evening if you needed to rewatch, or if you wanted to do the meditation, or share
Yeah,
it with anybody,
we'll put
feel
it
free
back
to
in the
invite
group,
anyone to the
and
group. Yeah.
hopefully we'll work out how to go live tomorrow, but that didn't work
Yeah.
today.
Thank you
Okay,
so much, you guys. The chat is beautiful. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a
bye.
great rest of your day.
Thank you, ladies. It's wonderful. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye. Thank
bye.
you.